Oops. What just happened? Shit. Oh, God. Alright, y'all. I apologize. I'm like 10 minutes late, more than 10 minutes late. I was cutting up a episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms and lost track of time. Alright, but I will get my stuff together. And I apologize for farting. It just came out. Unfortunate part of real life. Okay, let me see. Oh gosh, I don't even know what page I'm supposed to be on. Let's see. We are in Soul Scrolls today. We're doing chapter 27 and 28. So, page 152. Alright. Now that we know that. Alright. I hope you don't mind. I am going to step away for a minute. I am back. What did I do here? Okay, I just need to blow that up. Okay, not too much. Alright, let me try to get a chat message in. Sound terrible. I'm gonna turn my speaker off.
Power it off.
Every now and then my speaker sounds like it's blown or something, but then sometimes it sounds okay, so I don't know why that would be, but anyway. Let's just do a real quick hello and hope that it works. And it did, yay! Oh my goodness. Okay, so we got a chat going. I already checked to make sure that the page that I'm reading from shows up all right. I have my chapter intro things up and working right. I did not realize that at least one, possibly both of the ones that I did last time on Sunday were missing one of the transitions that I put at the end, but I fixed the ones for today when I saw that it was doing the same thing today, because I had just completely forgot to put that part of the transition in. I am definitely gonna need some lunch after this. I am quite hungry. Alright, we are almost ready. Let's put this back on Handmaid's Tale. And there we are. are. Hello everyone, this is Venus Brown. I'm back with another Handmaid's Tale live stream reading. Okay, we are going to be reading from part 10 called Soul Scrolls. Like I said last time, Soul Scrolls is a little bit long, so it'll go through several chapters. We are going to read chapters 27 and 28. All right. And again, I apologize for being late. I was working on a Night of the Seven Kingdoms video and just lost track of time and didn't realize that it was already past 2 o'clock. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the intermission screen and do the intermission for chapter 27. So that last little part where it like folds or unfolds, I think it folds. I don't remember. It either folds or unfolds. I had forgotten to put that in on like 4 of my most recent intermission video clips. All right, let's go ahead and get to the reading section. Darn it. I forgot the page number again. I gotta go look for it. So, actually, I can just go to it like this. We're on chapter 27, page 152. All right. Chapter 27. I walk with Of Glen along the summer street. It's warm, humid. This would have been sundress and sandals weather once. In each of our baskets are strawberries. The strawberries are in season now, so we'll eat them and eat them until we're sick of them. And some wrapped fish. We got the fish at Loaves and Fishes with its wooden sign, a fish with a smile and eyelashes. It doesn't sell loaves, though. Most households bake their own, though you can get dried up rolls of Wizen donuts at Daily Bread, if you run short. Loaves and Fishes is hardly ever open. Why bother opening when there's nothing to sell? The sea fisheries were defunct several years ago. The few fish they have now are from fish farms. They taste muddy. The news says that the coastal areas are being wrested. Sole, I remember, and haddock, swordfish, scallops, tuna. Lobsters stuffed and baked, salmon pink and fat, grilled in steaks. Could they all be extinct like the whales? I've heard that rumor, passed on to me in soundless words, the lips hardly moving as we stood in line outside, waiting for the store to open, lured by the picture of succulent white fillets in the window. They put the picture in the window when they have something. They take it away when they don't. Sign language. So I don't know, like the idea that almost all of these fish would be extinct or close to extinct. I think because a lot of what she's talking about are fishes that would be in ocean water and like salt water. I think. I'm not 100% sure on that. That, would all the oceans be that polluted? Because we know there's like several areas with radiation problems in the United States, but the United States is not the whole world. We don't know anything about radiation levels and stuff like that outside of it. We do know that the same problem with fertility in the United States was also occurring elsewhere in the world. It's one of the things that they'll come back to later in the story to talk about when one of the delegates is there. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. And the idea of never having salmon again, never having shrimp. Some people like lobster. I don't particularly eat it unless it is completely removed from the shell because I think the shell looks like a giant insect. Does not appeal to me at all. And when I've had the meat from it, the flesh from it, I don't think it tastes great. Like, it's okay, but so it's not something I would not eat, but it's definitely not something I'm going to go out of my way to eat. Salmon, on the other hand, love salmon. And shrimp, I like shrimp if it's cooked right. I mean, frankly, shrimp is good in all kinds of different ways, cold or warm. And then some of the other fish I like white fish that's like you have in fish sandwiches and stuff like that, or with fish and chips. Those I just like when they're breaded and fried. I know it's not that great for me, but I did see the other day. I was trying to look at the difference between um, a fish sandwich and a chicken sandwich at the same place with basically the same stuff on it, and the chicken sandwich that was fried like the fish sandwich was 1 or 200 calories more than the other one. So I mean, that at least sounds beneficial. And I know that fish itself has certain nutrients that are important for you, and I don't eat fish very often. So one of the things I have enjoyed getting when I do have to eat out and they are available is fish sandwiches. But I also have gotten spoiled, and I only really like fish sandwiches from a couple places. If it's from like Burger King or McDonald's, I won't get fish sandwiches there anymore because I like other ones so much better. Anyway, off topic, I know, but it just made me think of all the different ways of eating fish and stuff. And most other types of fish I don't really care all that much about. I will eat them, but I'm not like the biggest fan. Salmon, though, I love salmon. I do. And I have had shark meat once, and it tasted very bland. Same with snake meat. I had that once because my boss like let me try it, and it just tasted very bland. Anyway, let's continue on. Of Glenn and I walk slowly today. We are hot in our long dresses, wet under the arms, tired. At least in this heat we don't wear gloves. There used to be an ice cream store somewhere in this block. I can't remember the name. Things can change so quickly. Buildings can be torn down and turned into something else. It's hard to keep them straight in your mind the way they used to be. You could get double scoops, and if you wanted, they would put chocolate sprinkles on top. These had the name of a man. Johnny's, Jackie's, I can't remember. We would go there when she was little, and I'd hold her up so she could see through the glass side of the counter, where the vats of the ice cream were on display, colored so delicately, pale orange, pale green, pale pink. And I'd read the names to her so she could choose. She wouldn't choose by the name, though, but by the color. Her dresses and overalls were these colors, too, ice cream pastels. Jimmy's, that was the name. Okay, just hold on a minute. I need to make sure. Yeah. Needed to make sure my mic was on the right setting because I had it previously set for me and my kid talking. Okay. Of Glenn and I are more comfortable with one another now. We're used to each other. Siamese twins. We don't bother much with the formalities anymore. When we greet each other, we smile and move off in tandem, traveling smoothly along our daily track. Now and again, we vary the route. There's nothing against it, as long as we stay within the barriers. A rat in a maze is free to go anywhere, as long as it stays inside the maze. We've been to the stores already and the church. Now we're at the wall. Nothing on it today. They don't leave the bodies hanging as long in summer as they do in winter because of all the flies and the smell. This was once the land of air sprays, pine and floral, and people retained the taste, especially the commanders who preach purity in all things. You have everything on your list, of Glenn says to me now, though she knows I do. Our lists are never long. She's given up some of her passivity lately, some of her melancholy. Often she speaks to me first. Yes, I say. Let's go around, she says. She means down towards the river. We haven't been that way for a while. Fine, I say. I don't turn at once, though, but remain standing where I am, taking a last look at the wall. There are the red bricks, there are the searchlights, there's the barbed wire, there are the hooks. Somehow the wall is even more foreboding when it's empty like this. When there's someone hanging on it, at least you know the worst. But vacant, it is also potential, like a storm approaching. When I see the bodies, the actual bodies, when I can guess from the sizes and shapes that none of them is Luke, I can believe also that he is still alive. I don't know why I expect him to appear on this wall. There are hundreds of other places they could have killed him. But I can't shake the idea that he's in there at this moment behind the blank red bricks. I try to imagine which building he's in. I can remember where the buildings are inside the wall. We used to be able to walk freely there when it was a university. We still go in there once in a while for women's salvagings. Most of the buildings are red brick too. Some have arched doorways and Romanesque effect from the 19th century. We aren't allowed inside the buildings anymore. But who would want to go in? Those buildings belong to the eyes. Maybe he's in the library, somewhere in the vaults, the stacks. The library is like a temple. There's a long flight of white steps leading to the rank of doors. Then inside, another white staircase going up. To either side of it, on the wall, there are angels. Also, there are men fighting or about to fight, looking clean and noble, not dirty and blood-stained and smelly the way they must have looked. Victory is on one side of the inner doorway, leading them on, and death is on the other. It's a mural in honor of some war or another. The men on this side of death are still alive. They're going to heaven. Death is a beautiful woman with wings and one breast almost bare. Or is that victory? I can't remember. They won't have destroyed that. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna close something. Oh, no. We turn our backs to the wall, head left. Here there are several empty storefronts. Oh yeah, so she talks a little bit about the library. I wonder if it is the same library that they will discuss in the Testaments book. I will read the Testaments after I finish reading Handmaid's Tale, but it'll probably be the same thing twice a week or something like that. But anyway, there's like this whole section about a library that the ants are allowed to use. So, just something I hope to look forward to. I hope they include a little bit of that in the show because, big libraries I really enjoy. I enjoy all sorts of big libraries, even small libraries sometimes. All right, where was I? We turn our backs to the wall, head left. Here there are several empty storefronts, their glass windows scrawled with soap. I try to remember what was sold in them once. Cosmetics, jewelry. Most of the stores carrying things for men are still open. It's just the ones dealing in what they call vanities that have been shut down. At the corner is the store known as Soul Scrolls. It's a franchise. There are Soul Scrolls in every city center. Excuse me. In every suburb, or so they say. It must make a lot of profit. The window of the Soul Scrolls is shatterproof. Behind it are printout machines, row on row of them. These machines are known as holy rollers, but only among us. It's a disrespectful nickname. Holy rollers. Shatterproof. Shatterproof sounds like one of those words that June would have said just to hear it. Shatterproof. And to describe something. All right. What the machines print is prayers, roll upon roll, prayers going out endlessly. They're ordered by CompuPhone. I've overheard the commander's wife doing it. Ordering prayers from Soul Scrolls is supposed to be a sign of piety and faithfulness to the regime. So, of course, the commander's wives do it a lot. It helps their husbands' careers. There are 5 different prayers for health, wealth, a death, a birth, a sin. You pick the one you want, punch in the number, then punch in your own number so that your account will be debited, and punch in the number of names you want prayer, or the number of times you want prayers repeated. The machines talk as they print out the prayers. If you like, you can go inside and listen to them. The toneless metallic voices repeating the same thing over and over. Once the prayers have been printed out and said, once the prayers have been printed out and said, the paper rolls back through another slot and is recycled into fresh paper again. There are no people inside the building. The machines run by themselves. You can't hear the voices from outside, only a murmur, a hum, like a devout crowd on its knees. Each machine has an eye painted in gold on the side, flanked by 2 small golden wings. I try to remember what this place sold when it was a store, before it was turned into Soul Scrolls. I think it was lingerie, pink and silver boxes, colored pantyhose, broderies with lace, silk scarves, something lost. Of Glenn and I stand outside Soul Scrolls, looking through the shatterproof windows, watching the prayers well out from the machines, and disappear again through the slot, back to the realm of the unsaid. Now I shift my gaze. What I see is not the machines, but of Glenn, reflected in the glass of the window. She's looking straight at me. We can see into each other's eyes. This is the first time I've ever seen of Glenn's eyes. Something about that is just like, wow. Directly, steadily, not aslant. Her face is oval, pink, plump but not fat. Her eyes roundish. She holds my stare in the glass, level, unwavering. Now it's hard to look away. There's a shock in this seeing. It's like seeing somebody naked for the first time. There is risk. suddenly, in the air between us, where there was none before. Even this meeting of eyes holds danger, though there's nobody near. At last, if Glenn speaks, "Do you think God listens," she says, "to these machines?" She's whispering, our habit at the center. In the past, this would have been a trivial enough remark, a kind of scholarly speculation. Right now, it's treason. I could scream. I could run away. I could turn from her silently to show her I won't tolerate this kind of talk in my presence. Subversion, sedition, blasphemy, heresy, all rolled into one. I steel myself. "No," I say. She lets out her breath in a long sigh of relief. We have crossed the invisible line together. "Neither do I," she says. "Though I suppose it's faith of a kind," I say. "Like Tibetan prayer?" "Like Tibetan prayer wheels?" "What are those?" she asks. "I only read about them," I say. "They were moved around by the wind. They're all gone now." "Like everything," she says. "Only now do we stop looking at one another." "Is it safe here?" I whisper. "I figure it's the safest place," she says. "We look like we're praying, is all." "What about them?" "Them," she says, still whispering. "You're always safest out of doors, no mics, and why would they put one here? They'd think nobody would dare, but we've stayed long enough. There's no sense in being late getting back." We turn away together. "Keep your head down as we walk," she says, "and lean just a little towards me. That way I can hear you better. Don't talk when there's anyone coming." We walk, heads bent as usual. I'm so excited I can hardly breathe. But I keep a steady pace. No more than ever, I must avoid drawing attention to myself. Or now, more than ever, I must avoid drawing attention to myself. "I thought you were a true believer," of Glenn says. "I thought you were," I say. "You were always so stinking pious." "So were you," I reply. I want to laugh, shout, hug her. "You can join us," she says. "Us," I say. "There is an us, then." "There's a we. I knew it." "You didn't think I was the only one," she says. I didn't think that. It occurs to me that she may be a spy, a plant set to trap me. Such is the soil in which we grow. But I can't believe it. Hope is rising in me like sap in a tree. Blood in a wound. We have made an opening. I want to ask her if she's seen Moira. If anyone can find out what's happened to Luke, to my child, my mother even. But there's not much time. Too soon we're approaching the corner of Main Street, the one before the first barrier. There will be too many people. "Don't say a word," if Glenn warns me, though she doesn't need to, in any way. "Of course I won't," I say. Who could I tell? We walk the main street in silence, past Lily's, past All Flesh. There are more people on the sidewalks this afternoon than usual. The warm weather must have brought them out. Women in green, blue, red stripes. Men too, some in uniform, some only in civilian suits. The sun is free. It is still there to be enjoyed, though no one bathes in it anymore, not in public. There are more cars too, whirlwinds with their chauffeurs and their cushioned occupants, lesser cars driven by lesser men. Something is happening. There's a commotion, a flurry among the shoals of cars. Some are pulling over to the side as if to get out of the way. I look up quickly. It's a black van with the white winged eye on the side. It doesn't have the siren on, but the other cars avoid it anyway. It cruises slowly along the street as if looking for something, a shark on the prowl. I freeze. Cold travels through me, down to my feet. There must have been microphones. They've heard us after all. Of Glenn, under cover of her sleeve, grips my elbow. Keep moving, she whispers. Pretend not to see. But I can't help seeing. Right in front of us, the van pulls up. Two eyes in gray suits leap from the opening double doors at the back. They grab a man who's walking along, a man with a briefcase, an ordinary-looking man, slam him back against the backside of the van. He's there a moment, splayed out against the metal as if stuck to it. Then one of the eyes moves in on him, does something sharp and brutal that doubles him over into a limp cloth bundle. They pick him up and heave him into the back of the van like a sack of mail. Then they are inside also, and the doors are closed, and the van moves on. It's over in seconds. And the traffic on the street resumes as if nothing has happened. What I feel is relief that it wasn't me. So, yeah, that's why I put that image of the guy jumping out of the van, because just like the whole thing, I loved the way that they did it on the show. It really gave you that intensity, that kind of fear, like what the fuck is going on, and that worry that this could be any of them, and this guy is just like snatched off the fucking street and then gone. Anyway, let's go to our chapter 28 intermission. Okay. So more of that, kind of the things that occurred at the beginning of this thing, before Gilead took over, before Gilead was a thing, but Gilead's people, I can't remember their names, but when those people were starting to take care of Gary. Hi, Gary. Yes, I definitely remember Dairy Girls. It's been a while, but that was my first TV show reaction, was to Dairy Girls. It was a great show. I would definitely love to see more like it. And it's nice to see you in my comment section on Handmaid's Tale reading, of all things. But yeah, it's a pleasure to see you. Okay, so back to what I was saying. So we have the image shows at a point where Gilead has taken over to a point where they are starting to shut shit down and completely take over pieces of the system. And in that case, it's about taking all the women's jobs. The women are no longer allowed to have jobs. They're no longer allowed to have their own money. And, yeah, that was like the main thing. So anyway, we're going to read about it. And if you've seen the show, it's definitely shown in the show. All right, let's go ahead and go back to the reading page. Chapter 28. I don't feel like a nap this afternoon. There's still too much adrenaline. I sit on the window seat, looking out through the semi-sheer of the curtains. White nightgown, The window is as open as it goes. There's a breeze, hot in the sunlight, and the white cloth blows across my face. From the outside, I must look like a cocoon, a spook face enshrouded like this, only the outlines visible of nose, bandaged mouth, blind eyes. But I like the sensation, the soft cloth brushing my skin. It's like being in a cloud. You've given me a small electrical... they've given me a small electrical fan, which helps in this humidity. It whirs on the floor in the corner, its blades encased in grill work. If I were Moira, I'd know how to take it apart, reduce it to its cutting edges. I have no screwdriver, but if I were Moira, I could do it with a screwdriver. I'm not Moira. What would she tell me about the commander if she were here? Probably she'd disapprove. She disapproved of Luke back then. Not of Luke, but of the fact that he was married. She said I was poaching on another woman's ground. I said Luke wasn't a fish or a piece of dirt either. He was a human being and could make his own decisions. She said I was rationalizing. I said I was in love. She said that was no excuse. Moira was always more logical than I am. So some of those reasons that they kidnapped June in the first place and put her in this position was supposedly because she had cheated with Luke. They don't, and frankly, whether the people have been divorced or not, the people of Gilead do not care. If you were already divorced and you were having an affair with somebody, it was still considered cheating, still considered an affair. I doubt they feel the same about men, but for women, that's what it was. So she was having an affair, and frankly, she was having an affair before he was divorced. My understanding is they had marital problems. There were definitely already things that were wrong, but he was still married to her. He wasn't even separated from her when he started seeing June. And then eventually June spoke up and was like, no, you need to end things with her or we cannot continue, which might be in this chapter. Oh yeah, and another thing I wanted to say, this has nothing to do with Handmaid's Tale, but she's talking about the humidity and having this little electric fan. I have lived here in Florida where it's freaking hot and humid most of the time, but pretty much everybody has central air conditioners and central HVAC or whatever, heat and air conditioner. But I used to live in Virginia for a long time, and a lot of people there do not have air conditioner. My extended family on my husband's side live in Pennsylvania. And same thing. A lot of them do not have air conditioners. So even though it is not hot most of the year, during the summer it gets very, very hot. Sometimes more hot than it is here. And there's no freaking AC. It is hot, it is sweaty, and all you have to cool you off is water and fans. That's it. And I can tell you that having central AC is so much better. We have a similar problem in Washington, although I think Washington is a little cooler most of the time, but sometimes it does get pretty warm and pretty humid in summer. Just I don't think like it was. Virginia seemed worse. Virginia seemed so much more uncomfortable to me. And they are in Boston, in Massachusetts, which is not far from there. So I imagine the weather would be quite similar. Anyway, let's see. Where was I? I said she didn't have that problem herself anymore since she'd decided to prefer women. And as far as I could see, she had no scruples about stealing them or borrowing them when she felt like it. She said that was different. because the balance of power was equal between women, so sex was an even Steven transaction. I said even Steven was a sexist phrase. If she was going to be like that, and anyway, that argument was outdated. She said I had trivialized the issue, and if I thought it was outdated, I was living with my head in the sand. So, I don't know. I feel like Moira's argument there is, it's different. Like, because to me, the problem with an affair, with cheating, is that one woman is supposed to be in this relationship, and this other woman is also in a relationship with this person, whether they be man or woman, without consent. Without consent of all parties. I mean, that to me is the biggest problem, is that there is not consent from all parties. If there is consent from all parties, I don't care. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your religion is. If you want to mess around with multiple people and everybody consents and everybody's okay with it and everybody is able to legally consent, meaning they're of age, meaning they are not mentally unable to consent, meaning they are not drunk or on drugs off of their ass so that they can't logically consent, or they're not in a position where one person is in a leadership position over the other people, where the people under them might feel compelled to do what they say, or something like that. If there is consent and none of those things apply, then I don't have a problem with it. If consent doesn't exist because somebody's a child or because they're in a bad position to where it just doesn't work or whatever, then I start to have some problems with it. But the problem that Moira is talking about, I see as a little bit different, because she specifically says it's like pilfering, poaching somebody else's woman or whatever, and that to me is like that's a problem with cheating. That's not a problem with a power imbalance. There's so many other problems with power imbalances that it doesn't need to be about cheating. But I don't know. And I'm not sure I understand how she seems to be okay with same-sex cheating, but not opposite sex cheating. The power imbalance is for the man. Well, she did say that she didn't like Luke at the beginning. So maybe that's what it is that she's saying that Luke is the person creating the power imbalance because he's a man, and men do have privileges and things that create oppression for women that often men don't even get. They don't even understand a lot of times. But women like go through life understanding these realities, this power imbalance, and having to act accordingly to try to either level the playing field a little bit or to try to keep themselves out of whatever fucking awful positions might exist because of that power imbalance. Anyway, off topic again. Not really off topic, but just kind of going off on a tangent. Okay. Okay, so I think we read that whole thing. Okay. We said all this in my kitchen, drinking coffee, sitting at my kitchen table, in those low, intense voices we used for such arguments when we were in our early 20s, a carryover from college. The kitchen was in a run-down apartment in a clapboard house near the river, the kind with 3 stories and a rickety outside back staircase. I had the second floor, which meant I got noise from both above and below, two unwanted stereo disc players thumping late into the night. Students, I knew. I was still on my first job, which didn't pay much. I worked a computer in an insurance company, so the hotels with Luke didn't mean only love or even only sex to me. They also meant time off from the cockroaches, the dripping sink, the linoleum that was peeling off the floor in patches, even from my own attempts to brighten things up by sticking posters on the wall and hanging prisms in the windows. I had plants too, though they always got spider mites or died from being unwatered. I would go off with Luke and neglect them. So I've tried to do gardens and stuff like that, plant various plants, fruits, vegetables, all of that, and I do remember getting spider mites once. That wasn't too difficult for me to figure out how to deal with. The biggest problem I had was powdery mildew. I tried to grow melons and pumpkins at one point, and they got powdery mildew on it, and it just quickly spread throughout the entire thing, and I lost the entire garden. After that, it got more frustrating for me, and I didn't like dealing with it, and it seemed like every time I turned around, one of my crops was getting something on it, and then like it wasn't as bad as the powdery mildew where it destroyed the whole garden, but it would like destroy that whole particular plant or whatever. My kids liked fresh peas, and we would try to grow the peas, and sometimes they'd grow really well, but they wouldn't grow long, so you have to like harvest them fairly quickly before the sun burns them all up or whatever. But then I tried to plant them, and for some reason they wouldn't grow. We just weren't getting any. I think we got enough that we were able to pick a couple off of one plant one time or something like that, and for some reason they wouldn't grow. So that was a pain in the butt, because they went so well the first time. It seemed like it should go well, and I even tried to make sure that the shade was in the right area so that they weren't getting too much sun, and it just wasn't working. And there was this one time I did broccoli, and we tried to grow a bunch of other things, but for some reason mostly the broccoli grew, and anything else that grew, only a little bit of it grew, and then the broccoli just like completely took over there was broccoli everywhere, and it was not good broccoli. Like I've had really, really good broccoli that's like actually kind of sweet when it's fresh. This was not. It was stocky and tough and gross. And yeah, so we ended up with a ton of broccoli that nobody wanted to eat because it was not good. Anyway. Okay, let's see. I said there was more than one way of living with your head in the sand, and that if Moira thought she could create utopia by shutting herself up in a woman-only enclave, she was sadly mistaken. Men were not just going to go away, I said. You couldn't just ignore them. That's like saying you should go out and catch syphilis merely because it exists, Moira said. Are you calling Luke a social disease? I said. Moira laughed. Listen to us, she said. Shit, we sound like your mother. We both laughed then. And when she left, we hugged each other as usual. There was a time when we didn't hug, after she'd told me about being gay. But then she said I didn't turn her on, reassuring me, and we'd gone back to it. we could we could fight a wrangle and name call, but it didn't change anything underneath. She was still my oldest friend. And I think this would have been in the 80s. The 80s were hard. I mean, the 80s and before that, anybody alive today, anything before the 80s for people that are alive today was freaking hard for people that were in the LGBTQ community. Um, like if anybody knew about it at all, you would never live it down. And even if you were not LGBTQ at all, just the whiff of something that they felt was too feminine or too masculine or anything like that, and people would talk shit about you and they'd never let you live it down. It was not cool, not good. And the reality that her best friend stopped talking to her for a while because she thought she might be turned on. Like, it's one of the things I remember when I was in the military that I would hear the most was people complaining about just like automatically assuming that if somebody was gay, they'd be attracted to them or something like that. And I'm like, that's not how it fucking works. Like, you don't just automatically end up attracted to everybody of the same sex. You still have desires and tastes and stuff like that that are different than other people, just like straight people. Straight people have certain tastes and certain interests in certain types of people. They're not going to be interested in everybody. And just because you think you're some kind of catch doesn't mean they're going to automatically be interested in you. And frankly, if you were already best friends, it's a different thing. Like, was it ever uncomfortable before? Maybe not. Maybe it's uncomfortable now. But it's definitely something that you have to, like, talk through and figure out. And especially, like I said, at that time, the 80s and earlier, people were not accepting of this stuff. And you did not know if you told a family member or a good friend, somebody that you considered someone you love or they loved you or anything like that, you did not know how they were going to react. A lot of times you didn't know what they were going to do. Sometimes you still don't. But it does seem to be more accepted, or at least it was. Then whatever this fucking administration comes in and they fucking pull the fucking carpet off from under everybody, and all of a sudden everything's who knows, like, everything's just a fucking disaster now because these people want to discriminate and be hateful towards all kinds of people for all kinds of reasons, even though we thought at one time that things were getting better. But now it seems like things are getting worse. And it's definitely geared more towards trans people. But I'm hearing a lot of negativity towards lesbian, gay, and stuff like that also now. So it's not just trans people. It's all kinds of LGBTQ people. Queer, gay, trans, pan, all of it. Aromantic. Just, it's like people are looking for something to be hateful and angry about. Something to be discriminatory about. And then they will completely deny that discrimination. They will completely deny being racist, sexist, transphobic, homophobic, or they'll use bullshit excuses like, oh, it's not phobia, I'm not afraid of them. But your actions speak louder than words. You get so freaked out that somebody might be gay or somebody might be trans. You act like it's like the fucking end of life, or it's something severely terrible or wrong. That is phobia. Like, don't try to fucking deny it. Just because you're not like, oh my god, I'm scared. That doesn't mean that you're not fucking phobic. That doesn't mean you're not afraid. Your fears are just coming out in different ways. Anyway, I just keep getting sidetracked. It is what it is. Okay, okay, let's see. We could fight and wrangle a name call, but it didn't change anything underneath. She was still my oldest friend. I got a better apartment after that. Why does it just say is by itself? That's weird. Oh, she was still my oldest friend. Is, so not was. She is still my oldest friend. I got a better apartment after that, where I lived for the 2 years it took Luke to pry himself loose. I paid for it myself with my new job. It was in a library, not that big one with Death and Victory, a smaller one. I worked transferring books to computer disks to cut down on storage space and replacement costs, they said. Diskers, we called ourselves. We called the library a discotheque, which was a joke of ours. After the books were transferred, they were supposed to go to the shredder, but sometimes I took them home with me. I liked the feel of them and the look. Luke said I had the mind of an antiquarian. He liked that. He liked old things himself. It's strange now to think about having a job. Job. It's a funny word. It's a job for a man. Do a jobby, they'd say to children when they were being toilet trained, or of dogs. He did a job on the carpet. You were supposed to hit them with the rolled up newspapers, my mother said. I can remember when there were newspapers, though. I never had a dog, only cats. The Book of Job. All those women having jobs. Hard to imagine now, but thousands of them had jobs. Millions. It was considered the normal thing. Now it's like remembering the paper money when they still had that. My mother kept some of it, pasted into her scrapbook along with the early photos. It was obsolete by then. You couldn't buy anything with it. Pieces of paper, thickish, greasy to the touch, green colored, with pictures on each side, some old men in a wig, and on the other side a pyramid with an eye above it. It said, "In God we trust." My mother said people used to have signs beside their cash registers for a joke. "In God we trust. All others pay cash." That would be blasphemy. Blasphemy now. You know what? I'm gonna send a chat to Gary because I don't know if he's actually gonna stay on. I also don't know if he'll get this chat message, because when I go back and look at these later on, the chats that I've sent during the live stream don't seem to be there. So yeah, just hold on. I'm gonna put it on live scene so I can do this without it being on there. Where are you? Here you are. Okay. Okay, there we go. I wonder... Hold on a minute. No, it doesn't let me edit it. I'm gonna just copy this. See, I know there is supposed to be a way to look at the chats as the stream is going, but it seems like whenever I try to look at mine, it's not available. So I don't know why that is. I don't know what's up with that, but that seems to be the reality. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to the book. I know, I keep like getting distracted and off in La La Land and off on tangents and stuff. But I don't know. I see that as part of the fun of this. Oh my gosh, I snorted. Okay. After the books were transferred, they were supposed to go to the shredder, but sometimes I took them home with me. I liked the feel of them and the look. Luke said I had the mind of an antiquarian. He liked that. He liked old things himself. It's strange now to think about a job. Job. It's a funny word. It's a job for a man. Do a jobby, they'd say to children when they were being toilet trained, or of dogs, he did a job on the carpet. You were supposed to hit them with rolled up newspapers, my mother said. I can remember when there were newspapers, though I never had a dog, only cats. The Book of Job. All of those women having jobs, hard to imagine now. But thousands of them had jobs, millions. It was considered the normal thing. Now it's like remembering the paper money when they still had that. My mother kept some of it, pasted into her scrapbook along with the early photos. It was obsolete by then. You couldn't buy anything with it. Pieces of paper, thickish, greasy to the touch, green-colored, with pictures on each side, some old man in a wig, and on the other side a pyramid with an eye above it, some old man with a wig. So the president is just some old man with a wig. It said, "In God we trust." My mother said people used to have signs beside their cash registers for a joke. "In God we trust, all others pay cash." That would be blasphemy now. You had to take those pieces of paper with you when you went shopping, though by the time I was 9 or 10, most people used plastic cards. Not for groceries, though. That came later. It seems so primitive, totemistic even, like cowrie shells. I must have used that kind of money myself, a little, before everything went on the CompuBank. I guess that's how they were able to do it, in the way that they did, all at once, without anyone knowing beforehand. If there had still been portable money, it would have been more difficult. It was after the catastrophe, when they shot the president and machine-gunned the Congress, and the army declared a state of emergency. They blamed it on the Islamic fanatics at the time. "Keep calm," they said on television. "Everything is under control." I was stunned. Everyone was. I know that. It was hard to believe. The entire government gone just like that. How did they get in? How did it happen? That was when they suspended the Constitution. They said it would be temporary. There wasn't even any rioting in the streets. People stayed home at night, watching television, looking for some direction. There wasn't even an enemy you could put your finger on. So right now, nothing like this is happening in America. But there's like so many pieces of the Constitution that this president and his people are just breaking. They're just like not following at all. And because only Republicans are in control of every branch of government right now, none of them are doing anything substantial to stop it. Every once in a while we'll get a court case where the courts will actually do something about it. Every once in a while the Congress or Senate might attempt to pass something, to attempt to do something about it. But overall, most of it, it's like one thing after another, going against the Constitution, going against laws, going against precedents, and we're all like stuck in the middle of this shit that nobody is doing anything about, that has the power to do something about it. I mean, that's the biggest problem. We want to say, oh, well, what about the Democrats? The Democrats aren't in power in any branch. The best they can do is the shit that we're doing. Freaking protesting, trying to come up with creative ways to make some small dent or hold somebody accountable that doesn't feel like it does anything. But I know from past history that large mass freaking protests and mass attempts to do something about it can eventually whittle away at the people that are in power to the point where something can be done. Every now and then it can make a difference. It just feels like it doesn't. But anyway, I'm just all over the place, all over. But it's only an hour in. I don't know how much longer I have, but I feel like I'm a decent amount into this chapter, and it's the second chapter, and I'm only doing 2 chapters, so. Anyway. You had to take those pieces of paper with... No, we already read that. That was about the money. It was the stuff about the Constitution. Okay, so I think I got all the way to the end of the page. There wasn't even an enemy you could put your finger on. Look out, said Moira to me over the phone. Here it comes. Here what comes, I said. You wait, she said. They've been building up to this. It's you and me up against the wall, baby. She was quoting an expression of my mother's, but she wasn't intending to be funny. Things continued in that state of suspended animation for weeks. Although some things did happen. Newspapers were censored and some were closed down for security reasons, they said. The roadblocks began to appear and Adena passes. Everyone approved of that, since it was obvious you couldn't be too careful. They said that new elections would be held, but that it would take some time to prepare for them. The thing to do, they said, was to continue as usual, which is the same stuff they tell us anytime anything bad happens, to continue on as usual, like you don't want to mess things up worse. Now, this is during a fucking disaster over a fucking takeover, and they blamed it on terrorists, but still, same kind of fucking thing. And today, even without it being terrorists, the president is trying to claim he's doing all kinds of shit that is against the Constitution because it's an emergency situation or a wartime situation. Somebody was arguing with me about this, and I'm like, it is not an emergency wartime situation. So your argument doesn't fucking apply. Like, no. And this guy in office is fucking, like, just, like, having all kinds of fucking influence on the news, on reporters, on comedians, on all kinds of shit. having them shut down, having them iced out, all kinds of shit, because he doesn't like what they're saying. Not because they're doing anything wrong, but because he doesn't like that they're not talking nice about him. Because he's such a fucking spoiled, goddamn, ungrateful piece of shit. Anyway, I know, I'm so freaking nice and loyal to my president. My president is not the country. It is not the country I'm not loyal to. And I'm still calling him my president, even though he is an awful piece of shit. But I have a fucking right to say that he is an awful piece of shit, because let's get real, he is. Okay, so this is after the, we were supposed to continue on as usual. The porno marts were shut, though, and there were no longer any Feels on Wheels vans. So instead of Meals on Wheels, they called them Feels on Wheels. And bundle buggies. Oh no, she's saying they used the name Feels on Wheels for a porno thing. Okay, I get it now. And bundle buggies circling the square. But I wasn't sad to see them go. We all knew what a nuisance they'd been. It's high time somebody did something, said the woman behind the counter at the store where I usually bought my cigarettes. It was on the corner, a newsstand chain, papers, candy, cigarettes. The woman was older, with gray hair, my mother's generation. Did they just close them or what? I asked. She shrugged. Who knows? Who cares? She said. Maybe they just moved them off somewhere else. Trying to get rid of it altogether is like trying to stamp out mice, you know. She punched my compu number into the till, barely looking at it. I was a regular by then. People were complaining, she said. The next morning on the way to the library for the day, I stopped by the same store for another pack because I'd ran out. I was smoking more those days. It was the tension. You could feel it, like a subterranean hum, although things seemed so quiet. I was drinking more coffee too, and having trouble sleeping. I relate to a lot of this except for the smoking. I gave that up and have not gone back in well over 20 years. Everyone was a little jumpy. There was a lot more music on the radio than usual and fewer words. It was after we'd been married. For years, it seemed. She was 3 or 4 in daycare. We'd all got up in the usual way. Had breakfast. Granola, I remember. And Luke had driven her off to school in the little outfit I'd bought her just a couple of weeks before. Striped overalls and a blue t-shirt. What month was this? It must have been September. There was a school pool that was supposed to pick them up. But for some reason, I'd wanted Luke to do it. I was getting worried even about the school pool. No children walking to school anymore. There had been way too many disappearances. When I got to the corner store, the usual woman wasn't there. Instead, there was a man, a young man. He couldn't have been more than 20. She's sick, I said, as I handed him my card. Who? He said aggressively, I thought. The woman who's usually here, I said. How would I know? He said. He was punching my number in, studying each number, punching with one finger. He obviously hadn't done it before. I drummed my fingers on the counter, impatient for a cigarette, wondering if anyone had ever told him something could be done about those pimples on his neck. I remember quite clearly what he looked like. Tall, slightly stooped, dark hair, cut short, brown eyes that seemed to focus 2 inches behind the bridge of my nose, and that acne. I suppose I remember him so clearly because of what he said next. Sorry, he said. This number's not valid. That's ridiculous, I said. It must be. I've got thousands in my account. I just got the statement 2 days ago. Try it again. It's not valid, he repeated obstinately. See that red light? Means it's not valid. You must have made a mistake, I said. Try it again. He shrugged, gave me a fed-up smile, but he did try the number again. This time I watched his fingers on each number and checked the numbers that came up in the window. It was my number, all right, but there was the red light again. See, he said again, still with a smile, as if he knew some private joke he wasn't going to tell me. I'll phone them from the office, I said. The system had fouled up before, but a few phone calls usually seemed to straighten it out. Still, I was angry, as if I'd been unjustly accused of something I didn't even know about, as if I'd made the mistake myself. So in this, it's a cigarette store. In the show, it's a coffee store. There, she's getting coffee, but in this one, she's getting cigarettes. You do that, he said indifferently. I left the cigarettes on the counter. Since I hadn't paid for them, I figured I could borrow some at work. I did phone from the office, but all I got was a recording. The lines were overloaded, the recording said. Could I please phone back later? The lines stayed overloaded all morning, as far as I could tell. I phoned back several times, but no luck. Even that wasn't too unusual. About 2 o'clock, after lunch, the director came into the disking room. I have something to tell you, he said. He looked terrible. His hair was untidy. His eyes were pink and wobbling, as though he'd been drinking. We all looked up, turned off our machines. There must have been 8 or 10 of us in the room. I'm sorry, he said, but it's the law. I really am sorry. For what? Somebody said. I have to let you go, he said. It's the law. I have to let you all go. He said this almost gently, as if we were wild animals, frogs he'd caught in a jar, as if he were being humane. We're being fired, I said. I stood up, but why? Not fired, he said. Let go. You can't work here anymore. It's the law. He ran his hands through his hair, and I thought, he's gone crazy. The strain has been too much for him, and he's blown his wiring. You can't just do that, said the woman who sat next to me. This sounded false, improbable, like something you would say on television. It isn't me, he said. You don't understand. Please go now. His voice was rising. I don't want any trouble. If there's trouble, the books might be lost. Things will get broken. He looked over his shoulder. They're outside, he said, in my office. If you don't go now, they'll come in themselves. They gave me 10 minutes. By now, he sounded crazier than ever. He's loopy, someone said out loud, which we must have all thought. But I could see out in the corridor, and there were 2 men standing there in uniforms with machine guns. This was too theatrical to be true, yet there they were, sudden apparitions like Martians. There was a dreamlike quality to them. They were too vivid, too at odds with their surroundings. Just leave the machines, he said, while we were getting our things together, filing out, as if we could have taken them. We stood in a cluster on the steps outside the library. We didn't know what to say to one another, since none of us understood what had happened. There was nothing much we could say. We looked at one another's faces and saw dismay and a certain shame, as if we'd been caught doing something that we shouldn't. It's outrageous, one woman said, but without belief. What was it about this that made us feel we deserved it? When I go back to the house, nobody was there. Luke was still at work. My daughter was at school. I felt tired, bone tired. But when I sat down, I got up again. I couldn't seem to sit still. I wandered through the house, from room to room. I remembered touching things, not even that consciously, just placing my fingers on them. Things like the toaster, the sugar bowl, the ashtray in the living room. After a while, I picked up the cat and carried her around with me. I wanted Luke to come home. I thought I should do something, take steps, but I didn't know what steps I could take. So, in the show, on here, she works as a disker in the library, basically transferring the books from hard copy to discs. In the show, she's an editor, and I don't know how much overlap there is between those two jobs, but she's an editor in the show, not the book. An editor in the show, a disker in the book. Which is also why she has a lot of knowledge of words and how to use them and stuff like that. I tried phoning the bank again, but I only got the same recording. I poured myself a glass of milk. I told myself I was too jittery for another coffee, and went into the living room and sat down on the sofa and put the glass of milk on the coffee table. Carefully, without drinking any of it. I held the cat up against my chest so I could feel her purring against my throat. After a while, I phoned my mother at her apartment, but there was no answer. She'd settled down more by then. She'd stopped moving every few years. She lived across the river in Boston. I waited a while and phoned Moira. She wasn't there either. But when I tried half an hour later, she was in. In between those phone calls, I just sat on the sofa. What I thought about was my daughter's school lunches. I thought maybe I'd been giving her too many peanut butter sandwiches. I've been fired, I told Moira when I got her on the phone. She said she would come over. Excuse me. By that time, she was working for a women's collective, the publishing division. They put out books on birth control and rape and things like that, though there wasn't as much demand for those things as there used to be. I'll come over, she said. She must have been able to tell from my voice that this was what I wanted. She got there after some time. So, she said, she threw off her jacket, sprawled into the oversized chair. Tell me. First, we'll have a drink. She got up, went into the kitchen, and poured us a couple of scotches, came back and sat down, and I tried to tell her what had happened to me. When I'd finished, she'd said, "Tried getting anything on your CompuCard today?" "Yes," I said. I told her about that too. "They've frozen them," she said. "Mine too. The collectives too. Any account with an F on it instead of an M. All they needed to do is push a few buttons. We're cut off." "But I've got over $2,000 in the bank," I said, as if my own account was the only one that mattered. "Women can't hold property anymore," she said. "It's a new law. Turned on the TV today." "No," I said. "It's on there," she said. "All over the place." She was not stunned the way I was. In some strange way, she was gleeful, as if this was what she'd been expecting for some time, and now she'd just been proven right. She even looked more energetic, more determined. Luke can use your comp account for you, she said. They'll transfer your number to him. And that's what they say, husband or male, next of kin. But what about you, I said. She didn't have anyone. I'll go underground, she said. Some of the gays can take over our numbers and buy us things we need. But why? I said. Why did they? Ours is not to reason why, said Moira. They had to do it that way. The CompuBanks and the jobs both at once. Can you picture the airports otherwise? They don't want us going anywhere. You can bet on that. I went to pick my daughter up from school. I drove with exaggerated care. By the time Luke got home, I was sitting at the kitchen table. She was drawing with felt pens at her own little table in the corner where her paintings were, taped up next to the refrigerator. Luke knelt beside me and put his arms around me. I heard, he said on the car radio, driving home. Don't worry, I'm sure it's temporary. Did they say why? I said. He didn't answer that. We'll get through it, he said, hugging me. You don't know what it's like, I said. I feel as if somebody cut off my feet. I wasn't crying. Also, I couldn't put my arms around him. It's only a job, he said, trying to soothe me. I guess you get all of my money, I said. And I'm not even dead. I guess you get all my money, I said, and I'm not even dead. I was trying for a joke, but it came out sounding macabre. Hush, he said. He was still kneeling on the floor. You know, I'll always take care of you. I thought, already he's starting to patronize me. Then I thought, already you're starting to get paranoid. I know, I said. I love you. Later, after she was in bed and we were having supper, and I wasn't feeling so shaky, I told him about the afternoon. I described the director coming in, blurting out his announcement. It would have been funny if it wasn't so awful, I said. I thought he was drunk. Maybe he was. The army was there and everything. Then I remembered something I'd seen and hadn't noticed at the time. It wasn't the army. It was some other army. There were marches, of course, a lot of women and some men, but they were smaller than you might have thought. I guess people were scared. And when it was known that the police or the army or whoever they were would open a fire almost as soon as any of the marches even started, the marches stopped. A few things were blown up. Post offices, subway stations, but you couldn't even be sure who was doing it. It could have been the army to justify the computer searches, and the other ones the door-to-doors. I didn't go to any of the marches, Luke said. It would be futile, and I had to think about them, my family, him and her. I did think about my family. I started doing more housework, more banking. I tried not to cry at meal times. By this time, I'd started to cry, without warning, and to sit beside the bedroom window, staring out. I didn't know many of our neighbors, and when we met outside on the street, we were careful to exchange nothing more than the ordinary greetings. Nobody wanted to be reported for disloyalty. Remembering this, I remember also my mother, years before. I must have been 14, 15, that age when daughters are most embarrassed by their mothers. I remember her coming back to one of our many apartments with a group of other women, part of her ever-changing circle of friends. They'd been in a march that day, It was during the time of the porn riots, or was it the abortion riots? They were close together. There were a lot of bombings then, clinics, video stores. It was hard to keep track. My mother had a bruise on her face and a little blood. You can't stick your hands through a glass window without getting cut, is what she said about it. Fucking pigs. Fucking bleeders, one of her friends said. They call the other side bleeders, after the signs they carried. Let them bleed. So it must have been the abortion riots. I went into my bedroom to be out of their way. They were talking too much and too loudly. They ignored me, and I resented them. My mother and her rowdy friends. I didn't see why she had to dress that way in overalls as if she were young, or to swear so much. You're such a prude, she would say to me in a tone of voice that was on the whole pleased. She liked being more outrageous than I was, more rebellious. Adolescents are always such prudes. That's not something I usually hear, but okay. Part of my disapproval was that, I'm sure, perfunctory routine, but also I wanted from her a life more ceremonious, less subject to makeshift and decampment. You were a wanted child, God knows, she would say at other moments, lingering over the photo albums in which she had me framed. These albums were thick with babies, but my replicas thinned out as I grew older, as if the population of my duplicates had been hit by some plague. She would say this a little regretfully, as though I hadn't turned out entirely as she'd expected. No mother is ever completely a child's idea of what a mother should be, and I suppose it works the other way around as well. But despite everything, we didn't do badly by one another. We did as well as most. I wish she was here, so I could tell her finally that I know this. Someone has come out of the house. I hear the distant closing of a door. Around at the side, footsteps on the walk. It's Nick. I can see him now. He's stepped off the path onto the lawn to breathe in the humid air, which stinks of flowers, of pulpy growth, of pollen, thrown in the wind in handfuls, like oyster spawn in the sea. All this prodigal breeding. He stretches in the sun. I feel the ripple of muscles go along him, like a cat's back arching. He's in his shirt sleeves, bare arms sticking shamelessly out from the rolled cloth. Where does the tan end? I haven't spoken to him since that one night, dreamscape in the moon-filled sitting room. He's only my flag, my semaphore. Body language. Right now, his cap's on sideways, therefore I'm sent for. What does he get for it? His role as page boy. How does he feel pimping in this ambiguous way for the commander? Does it fill him with disgust or make him want me more? Want me more? Because he has no idea what really goes on in there. Among the books, acts of perversion for all he knows. The commander and me covering each other with ink, licking it off, or making love on stacks of forbidden newsprint. Well, he wouldn't be far off at that. But depend on it, there's something in it for him. Everyone's on the take, one way or another. Extra cigarettes, extra freedoms not allowed to the general run. Anyway, what can he prove? It's his word against the commander's, unless he wants to head a posse. Kick in the door, and what did I tell you? kick in the door, and what did I tell you? Caught in the act, sinfully scrabbling, quick at those words. Maybe he just likes the satisfaction of knowing something secret, of having something on me, as they used to say. It's the kind of power you can use only once. I would like to think better of him. That night, after I'd lost my job, Luke wanted me to see the way they just like go in and out of the past and the present. Sometimes it catches me a little off guard. I would like to think of him better. I would like to think better of him. That night, after I'd lost my job, Luke wanted me to make love. Why didn't I want to? Desperation alone should have driven me, but I still felt numbed. I could hardly even feel his hands on me. So, like, why wouldn't you want to? Like, I could totally understand why you wouldn't want to in that situation. That is not like a lovemaking kind of situation. That is like a like all our female lives are completely, even the males' lives, all of them are completely uprooted and have completely evolved into something completely different that we definitely would not understand. Like, God, that's definitely not something I would want to be making love during. Anyway. What's the matter, he said. I don't know, I said. We still have, he said. But he didn't go on to say what we still had. It occurred to me that he shouldn't be saying we, since nothing that I knew of had been taken away from him. We still have each other, I said. It was true. Then why did I sound, even to myself, so indifferent? He kissed me then, as if now I'd said that things could go back to normal. But something had shifted, some balance. I felt shrunken, so that when he put his arms around me, gathering me up, I was small as a doll. I felt love going forward without me. He doesn't mind this, I thought. He doesn't mind it at all. Maybe he even likes it. We are not each other's anymore. Instead, I am his. Unworthy, unjust, untrue. But that is what happened. So, Luke, what I want to ask you now, what I need to know is, was I right? Because we never talked about it. By the time I could have done that, I was afraid to. I couldn't afford to lose you. It's crazy, like the whole situation. Like, could you imagine? Could you imagine? Whether you're a male or a female or non-binary or whatever, could you imagine this happening to an entire nation, all of one gender, completely is not legally allowed to work anymore and are legally not allowed to own money, and all of that money, all of their possessions have to be transferred over to the opposite sex? Like, that's insane. Or to your sex, if you're the male. Like, that is a huge fucking thing for the males and the females in the situation. But it's definitely going to make the people that lose their freaking property, their money, their jobs feel like completely horrible. Like, you have taken so much from them and you have made them into a possession. You have made them into property. And you've taken away so much of their rights. And that's just the beginning. Like, it gets so much worse after that. But that's the beginning of the end for them, really. The beginning of the end for the United States. The beginning of the end for any freedoms that they had. The men too. The men lose freedoms too. It's just different. But, wow. Anyway, that's all I got for you this week. Not this week. That's all I got for you for today. I will see you on Sunday when I read chapters... what is it? Hold on just a sec. Let me turn that off. When I read chapters 20... I think it's... God, I was just at it. And I can't remember already. 29, 30, and 31. And we should be moving out of Soul Scrolls part 10 by then at some point. We'll start in Soul Scrolls, but then move on to whatever part 11 is. And we're this evening at 6 p.m. that's going to be my last A Night of the Seven Kingdoms for season 1. They're not supposed to have the next season out until 2027, and I don't know when in 2027, but I have been told that it was 2027. Bridgerton season 4, that gets dropped on the 26th, but like I've said before, it takes me about a week to get those things done, so it'll be next week by the time I get to it, by the time I get it done being edited. Tokyo Ghoul, I'm towards the end of it, and I think I have 3 episodes left, and then I will be starting to do reactions to Solo Leveler. So, anyway, that's all I got for you. I will see you when I see you. Bye. Oh, I didn't press end stream, so...